is Christmas, and your holiday ornaments slash decorations are mid. And yes, that does include the homemade ones, especially the ones you made in kindergarten that your family still holds on to for some reason. Unless, of course, that homemade one is the ornament that I'm showing you how to make in this video, in which case, that one's cool. But if you aren't from the future and you want to make one of these totally non-cringe ornaments, your first step to unmitifying your holiday decor is to first acquire an ATtiny 85, which I feel like most of my projects include now, but can you blame me? I mean, look at how handsome she is. But as you can see, she doesn't exactly have her own onboard programmer, part of what makes the little guy so perfect. So we'll be needing this ISP programmer to actually get any code loaded onto this thing that I made and can conveniently be found on my Etsy and is way better than any other ATtiny programmer. There's no need to fact check me. And of course, we'll also be needing some fun input and output stuff to actually make our ornament do cool ornament things, like being able to be remote controlled using this IR receiver and IR transmitter that's in this remote that has way too many buttons and that I honestly tried to avoid using, but couldn't find something with less buttons that also didn't come with a bunch of extra crap that I didn't need. This IR transmitter slash remote will work with our IR receiver to collect these individual button codes so that we actually know what's being pressed. But before we can do anything with that, we're gonna need to wire some resistors to this and this pin on our receiver to look something like this, since just having it raw dog the power and input lines could cause it some damage or lead to improper readings. And since this is all we'll be needing for now, we can go ahead and get this plugged up and load some generic IR reader code onto the ATtiny that'll basically just spit out our button codes as each button is pressed. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot the ATtiny doesn't have a serial interface protocol, but that's fine, because Jenny does. So after getting her all wired up and getting absolutely flashbanged by the onboard LEDs I was not expecting to be on and be that bright, we can actually re-upload that code and have it work and start pressing some buttons until we have all 44 button codes recorded and copy-pasted into a text file or something, so that we can also go ahead and number all of the codes just to make finding the right button easier for later. But now that we have our button codes, I can put Jenny back on my display shelf and add the RGB LEDs that'll be used as our ornament outputs. And I wasn't really sure if I liked the diffused or the clear LEDs more, so I just decided to go with both for now, because both of these LEDs share something called a common cathode anyways, which basically just means that the long pin here would be plugged into a ground pin, whereas a configuration with a common anode would have that long pin be plugged into a 5-volt pin or something. But these other legs each control a separate color in the LED, so if we connect each LED pin to a separate pin on the ATtiny that also supports pulse width modulation, then we can basically get any color we want from just one LED by just manipulating some variables to make ourselves an RGB Christmas ornament, since RGB makes everything better. We're also still going to need some resistors on each pin that'll be going to an input like any other LED would need. I just went with some 220 ohm resistors because I can't be bothered to actually calculate the exact value I'd need, and added some male-to-male jumpers I'm just going to leave hanging around for now, because I'm also going to be adding this photoresistor as well, which will basically act as another input for the LEDs by letting us automatically brighten or dim the LEDs depending on how bright the room it's in is. The photoresistor will also be needing a normal resistor in a configuration that looks something like this, because I guess it's just too hard to have a component that just plugs straight into things with the pins it already has without it needing to be on a whole module. But we still can't use the photoresistor like how we'd want it just yet, because first we're going to need to switch to a much better camera angle, write up some stuff that I definitely didn't struggle with off camera, and employ Jenny's help again in order to run a separate program, kinda like the one for the IR receiver, that will actually let us see our actual room light level in real time as a number, so that we can map the min and max of this number from 0 to 255, which will basically constrain the numbers read from the photoresistor to that range to make it easier for the LED to read, since an LED's brightness usually ranges from 0 to 255, as you can hopefully see from this poorly timed demonstration. But with all of our inputs finally dialed in, we can finally move on to the code. All 1005 lines of repetitive button programming, all for your amusement, so you better like this video for all of my hard work while I speedrun through all 44 button features. The first one is pretty self-explanatory. It's a power button that turns the LEDs on or off and usually defaults them to white. All of the color changing buttons do color changing things, using that pulse width modulation I talked talked about earlier, to dim the red, green, or blue pins to make different colors. And you can't really see it in the video, but it's also here that I realized that the diffused LED actually looks a lot better since the diffusion blends the different colors inside the LEDs a lot better. The main dimmer and brightener buttons dim the red, green, and blue pins at the same time, also with the use of pulse width modulation. The individual dimmers and brighteners for the red, green, and blue pins that also use pulse width modulation to very slowly create custom mixes of colors. The photoresistor or auto dimmer that we set up earlier that will look like it did absolutely nothing at first but will actually brighten the LED. The darker the photoresistor sees the room automatically, which also uses pulse width modulation, just like every button pretty much does if you haven't caught on by now. This mode can be turned off by forcing the LED to whatever brightness you want, then pressing the auto button again, which was a totally intentional thing that I remembered and meant to add on purpose. The animation buttons run everyone's favorite animations, like rainbow jump with each color separated by white, slow rainbow fade, even slower rainbow fade that I can't even tell is changing unless I speed up the footage, and everyone's all-time favorite, generic flashing mode that also unfocuses my camera for some reason. All of these animations on this controller can be paused and played again with the pause play button. They can also be sped up or slowed down with the quick and slow buttons that I demonstrated by switching back to that one slow ass fade and spamming the quick button, but I still can't tell a difference. With this one, I probably just need to tweak the speed thingies in the code. The DIY mode and set buttons obviously lets you do cool DIY things, like make a better looking yellow color than whatever the hell I made the preset, and save it to one of the DIY buttons by pressing this DIY mode button and then pressing whatever DIY button you want to save it to. And finally, we have these extra buttons here, which are apparently supposed to be static off-white, static light pink, static green white, and static blue white, which literally makes no sense to me, because I mean, does this look like off-white to you? So I already made the top one here, the DIY programmer, but the others I basically just set to be other cooler animations, like a candle flickering animation, a kinda snowflake twinkling animation, and a brighter blue flickering animation. I was kind of running out of ideas for animations if you couldn't tell, but hey, that's why all of these projects are completely open source, so you can add your own animations if you have any better ideas. But with our main code finally out of the way as well, we can get this thing unplugged and banish our programmer back to the programmer drawer and get this thing plugged into the power supply to see what type of battery would be best for this project, since I'm pretty sure nobody wants to deal with plugging in a bunch of individual ornaments into a wall. That wouldn't be very aesthetic. The maximum power input for the ATtiny85 is the typical 5 volts, but it can also run on 3.3 volts. The LEDs just wouldn't be able to get as bright as they can using 5 volts, unless I like switched out the resistors or something, and I'm way too lazy to do that. But giving it power, we can see that in its idle state, without any LEDs on, it only draws about 5 milliamps in current. Turning the LEDs on and onto the setting that should draw the most power, being the static white setting, since all of the LED pins would be set to their highest brightness here, we can see that we only need about 38 milliamps in current to power this thing with 2 LEDs. And since we have the LEDs set up in parallel instead of series, this also means we can easily add more LEDs both to the breadboard and the future PCB schematic without really having to change much. But it does mean that the more LEDs we add, the more current it will draw too, which is fine because that still means we can use this coin cell battery holder setup that I had planned on using for this project all along anyways. So we can unscrew this thing to see that it holds up to 2 3-volt coin cell batteries that add up to be 6 volts when they're placed face to ass like this, and the battery holder, which will also give us plenty of current to work with, and its long cables can even be used as an ornament string or something. I don't know, get creative. The setup will also be needing that linear regulator just to cram down that 6 volts to be a safer 5 volts for the ATtiny so that I don't accidentally fry another one of these things. Next, we'll also be needing to design a festive PCB for our setup, since just leaving it like this isn't exactly giving ornament, but just using this schematic that was unnecessarily hard to wire and the generic square PCB you'd probably turn it into wouldn't be very festive either. So it's time to flex my art skills and get to drawing up something fancy that you can't really see in the beginning because of the color correction on my phone or whatever, but trust me, I cooked with the sketch just like I did with this final drawing. A flawless final drawing that we can then take and upload to a separate art program and do a bunch of random stuff to that I still don't really understand what I actually did, so that we're actually able to use the art as a border for our sick Christmas PCB that was also a massive headache to route the wiring for, but clearly the headache was well worth it, and we can move on to getting this bad boy ordered. And if you think this thing was worth it too, the files for this PCB can be found for like $5 on my Patreon in the description below. Not sponsored, by the way. But with our PCBs finally here, we can dissect our packaging and see how our PCBs turned out as soon as I actually do manage to get them out of the packaging. And as you can see from this poor panoramic, the PCBs absolutely did turn out hella nice. The second one there is just a T-light version I added for my grandma, but it does still have the exact same circuit, it's just meant to go in T or something. But now we can solder all of that crap onto these things. I'm personally adding an 8-pin dip for my ATtiny85 so that I can remove it and reprogram the buttons if I want, and you can do the same thing too if you're following along and making one with me, which you honestly should have been doing from the start since all of my projects are completely open source. And now it's time to turn the final product into absolute cinema.